Welcome to Skill Sprint with me, Chris Webber. This video is a quick highlight reel of my latest episode of the Commercial Edge podcast. I use my notes and scribbles from the full-length conversation to pull out what I feel are the headlines and lessons from my most recent expert guest. Drawing on my experience, this video gives you all the key points without the stories. My hope is that you can use these tips and tricks to unleash the power of your people. We've just started a new series of the podcast, and in this series we're going to be exploring setting up coaching and mentoring programs in an internal setting rather than using external people. And I had Harriet join me for the first episode. Harriet actually came from this culture. So she started her coaching experience having been coached by an internal coach. And therefore, she has a very interesting perspective on what worked, why it worked, and how other organizations can bring a success to it. And from there, she also then went back and became a coach and did internal coaching. So I really wanted to explore with her what worked, why did it work, what are the challenges? And I started off thinking to myself that actually this is quite a good idea, that having a set of internal coaches is probably a good resource to have within an organization. It's probably quite easy to do and straightforward to do. Well, I've changed my mind. I'm not saying that it's not a good thing to do. I'm not saying it isn't a great resource, but it's not an easy thing to do. We talked about a few elements of this. And we started off talking about the importance of coaching and the fact that there needs to be boundaries, that there needs to be trust, and that there needs to be kind of thoughtful matching of who the coach is going to be working with within the organization. And it's actually helpful to separate reporting lines and even functions. That's not easy to do. You need a scale within the organization to be able to do that. And that creates a challenge immediately for small, medium organizations who have quite flat structures. And these are the people who would probably benefit the most from having coaching networks internally, from the fact that they don't have to draw in external people. So an immediate challenge to think about that, how do you create those boundaries? Not insurmountable, but I think worth thinking about. The other thing that really struck me about this was the credibility and the capability of coaches. It's not an easy thing to do, despite what you see online with the number of people who are now becoming coaches and launching themselves as professional coaches. It takes time to qualify. It is a professional qualification. It does require support and ongoing personal development and motivation. You cannot set up a coach internally and in 2 weeks, bang, you've got people who are now being coached internally. There's actually a process to have the credibility and the expertise you need to have really good coaching conversations. One of the things that did strike me in this conversation that I think organizations really do need to do, and is a start point and a quick fix, is creating coaching skills for leaders. This is something that you can do within a few days, and then you can start to implement this approach. And why would you do that? Well, Harriet explained that you need a fertile ground for coaching to be successful. And that fertile ground comes from an organization which is dedicated to personal development, to personal improvement, and to building internal capabilities. Having a management team and a leadership team who are committed to coaching, who are committed to becoming and improving the performance of their people, is a great start point to create that fertile ground. And then it's like the foundation. Level one, we have a coaching mindset in our leadership. So what is that? Well, be present in conversations, asking really good reflective questions that encourage your people to reflect on their own behaviors, listening and paying attention to what they're saying and the tone, and trying to get layers down, not just the words that they're using, but what's the implications of what they're saying, and having the right mindset. Those are the areas that Harriet talked about as being a foundation for leaders as coaches. And I think those conversations will lead you into creating a culture where bringing in expertise, having somebody who is your organizational coach could then really start to make a big difference. So much more than I'd anticipated within this topic. And we're going to continue talking about it and reflecting on it and sharing some tips. Harriet's headlines, if you're going to do this, make sure that you've got advocacy within the leadership, within the business, so that it's not something that dies. It's going to be an investment of time and resources. So have your leadership advocating this is incredibly powerful and important thing. And I think that then also sets the tone for stage one, building leaders as coaches and creating an environment where people are seen as a resource to be invested in and developed. Well, what could you do differently as a result of what you've just heard? Find me on LinkedIn and let me know. For more like this, and to join in the conversation, search the Commercial Edge podcast wherever you listen to your content. Want to unleash the power of your people? Subscribe to the newsletter, link below. See you soon.